Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here with Everything MSP. Hope all is doing well for you. I am here with John Harden with Auvik. John, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well, Dan. I appreciate you having me on here.
I appreciate you being here and really just love being able to have the opportunity to speak more about this whole SaaS world that we live in. You founded Saasleo little over 3 years ago, right?
Yes, so we're rolling into about 3.5 years now that I've been pretty much laser focused on solving this SaaS management problem for the MSP space. But prior to that, I'd spent about 10, 12 years in the MSP world myself, eventually kind of becoming a director at my MSP and solving tough problems. And I wouldn't say I did much different. I went out and went out to build Saasleo just to solve another tough problem.
Yeah. Well, when I think of Saasleo, I think really the core of the application and, really probably why you were inspired to create this is the impacts of shadow IT. When you think about shadow IT, and maybe we should do is back up a little bit and talk to our audience about what exactly is shadow IT, because it is a weird term, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's the textbook definition of what shadow IT is, which is basically any piece of technology that the IT team is unaware of. In general, it could be as innocuous as I signed up, I bought my own mouse on Amazon, look, it glows. It's probably not what IT approved. But if IT doesn't know about it or it's not documented, it would be considered shadow IT.
Right.
There's a couple lenses. One, it has the lens of you're an MSP, so anything that your client is using that you're unaware of would also be considered shadow IT because you're the IT team for your client.
Right.
Now, shadow IT can be hardware, it can be software, it could be, we've all had that customer who decided they were going to plug in their own little switch under their desk and mess up the network. We've all had that customer who signed up and put data into SaaS tools that they didn't tell anybody about. And when they left, a bunch of tribal knowledge got lost. My focus over the last 3.5 years with Saasleo, now Auvik SaaS Management, is really the SaaS shadow IT. That shadow IT where you're going online, you have a business problem to solve, like I need to go transfer a file to a customer. You sign up for Dropbox, you get the file to the customer. You never deal with that data that's sitting out in the cloud, and you're leaving little droplets of data all over the internet.
Right.
That's the problem I'm energized to go solve.
And I'm old enough to remember the days of working for both startups, Fortune 500 companies, and there's different rules and policies that often come to using something that's outside the norm. And it's not always that someone's trying to be a renegade, right? I mean, someone's just ultimately they're just trying to get their job done. They're trying to do better for the organization. So they're seeking out a tool and they aren't really trying to do anything that's going to cause havoc, but ultimately it can. And why is this important for us to better understand shadow IT?
Dan, you said music to my ears, and we didn't even rehearse this. The thing is about shadow IT, it's innocent until proven guilty is the way I like to look at it.
Sure.
I'm too optimistic, but I've nailed it down. There's really like 3 ways that shadow IT get into a company. The first way is what you talked about. I call it entrepreneurship. It's an employee of the organization who sees a business problem that needs solved, finds a solution to solve said problem, and resolves it. That could be a marketing intern who signs up for MailChimp because the boss said, we're having a golf outing, invite every one of the clients. We want to get an invite. So that could be entrepreneurship. The second form of shadow IT is a knowledge gap. So take that same marketing intern who is just trying to get the job done of inviting everybody to the golf outing like the boss asked them to. But they didn't know that the company already had HubSpot. They just went out and solved their own problem. There's a knowledge gap. They didn't know there was a solution to the said problem. So while they were being an entrepreneur, they just were unaware that there was an existing solution in the business. So I call the second way of shadow IT really being just being a knowledge gap rather.
Right.
And the third one, which imposes risk, is really malicious shadow IT. I call it kind of a problem solver of another sort. It's where data loss prevention tools and mechanisms come in. It's where policy can't protect you from that. We talked about there's policy at companies not to do it, but since when has an administration lock on your Windows computer popped up when you signed up for Dropbox.com? Nothing's stopping you. It's a lot
Sure.
easier these days than installing something on your computer. So, those are the three ways of shadow IT, and why it's important is because really, fundamentally, I look at it opportunistically. If I'm an MSP, I look at these entrepreneurs as a dialogue I want to have with my customer. I want to
Right.
bring it to my QBRs and say, hey, we just saw 12 employees using ChatGPT last quarter. Did you know your employees are doing this? What business problems are they solving? So unlocking kind of a strategy conversation around those entrepreneurs.
Yep.
But also it's really just important to know, if you are building security programs, for instance, around an unknown, it would be like having a house that wasn't designed, but buying furniture for it. You can't build a
Right.
security program around what you can't see, and you can't protect what you can't see. So fundamentally, knowing what exists is such a critical point. And that's why I went out to solve this problem of shadow IT, is just because I want to document it all so that we know what's going on in the environment before we start building plans to secure it.
Yeah, and I do want to jump into some of the security implications, but before we do that, I think the other thing too is, a lot of times we're only scratching at the surface level of different applications and tools that may already be in place. And so often end users, are trying to solve their own problem, but might not realize that there's already something there that, has already got the seal of approval, if you will, and might better integrate. Don't have to worry about that fragmentation of data of something out there. We have no clue of what's out there. So, can you talk a little bit more to that aspect?
Yeah. So in the SaaS ecosystem, Gartner has it to where about 25% of SaaS licenses out there are waste. And waste comes in a handful of different forms. But if 25% of your customer, budget on SaaS is being spent right now, you can assume those as opportunistic savings. And the savings come in a few ways. One, I just rolled out a big program out to all my employees. I just said, everybody's going to use this. I didn't measure it. I didn't track its efficacy. I didn't reinforce it. I just rolled it out. So I bought it for everybody. But only 20% or 30% adopt heavy users, and maybe the other 60% adopt as medium to low users, and the other 10% never touch it. So those are wasted licenses. The overlapping is another area, right? I find it so funny. I was talking with a partner the other day who's doing a QBR with their customer, and the customer said to them, hey, we're looking at rolling out HubSpot. We want to solve a business problem that's going on. And my partner went back to him and goes, you do know you've got 12 subscribed users inside your product marketing over here that are already using
Yeah.
HubSpot, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine had that partner not had the information, they may not have used HubSpot. They may have found something else. They may have self-solved their own problem. But that overlap issue becomes a big pain. I think we face it a lot even in the MSP space, where lots of tools solve the same problems and they're overlapping. So it becomes complex. So you got to think about SaaS strategically. It's a mix of IT and business problem. Every SaaS tool solves a business problem. So it's about weighing those business problems with, the other things you've already got in your stack.
And what's so critical is we continue on our calls to talk about moving away from those blinky light conversations and having true business conversations, business owner to business owner, business leader to business leader, and really tapping into their overall workflow, taking a look at where are their bottlenecks. Unless you're able to, scan the network and see what kind of, applications might be in place that aren't normal, that are not part of the approved list, you just don't know, you're in the dark. And so just such a critical thing. So when you take a look at shadow IT overall, what does it look like to manage it?
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest challenges, because SaaS management as a practice for MSPs is basically newer. We've had RMMs for years. We know how to manage the software installed on the computer, but it's that black box. It's that enigma when they go to Google Chrome that's just completely unknown. So I've kind of boiled down like three key areas that SaaS management practice belongs in an MSP. The first one is onboard journey, of course, right? As an MSP, you're just asking your customers, you're either sending a questionnaire or a survey out to the person, and you're saying, hey, what do you use? What we believe a good SaaS management solution should do, and what Auvik SaaS management can do at least, is displace the what do you use with an automated collector, generating reports, and turns it into a why are you using ChatGPT? Why are you using HubSpot? What business problems are you solving with these tools versus a what? So that's the first area. The second taps in directly into what you said, Dan. It's shadow IT is a strategic hearthbed. It's business problems being solved. Like, why would you not want to talk about it? So right. The second area of what I believe good, excellent SaaS management is recurring discussions around top shadow IT in a QBR interval, whether it's a QBR, CBR, whatever you're doing. Imagine going to your customer and saying, here's the top 10 shadow IT assets we saw last quarter. Your employees are using ChatGPT, your employees are using Dropbox, your employees are using XYZ. What business problem are they solving with this? And unlocking a strategy conversation, not the red lights, the green lights blinking red now. What problems are you solving? Right. And then I'll cap us off with the last one that I think is really important is employee lifecycle. It's about knowing what the employee is using. We've all dealt with that pain of offboarding a VP of sales. You get a call from the CEO, says they got to go today. What do they have access to? And you have no idea. You know they have Google Chrome, but the minute they touch that, you're lost. Right. So it's effective understanding of what's there, where all the real data is, which is in these SaaS tools. Yep. It's knowing what's out there to help facilitate what I call kind of a co-offboarding process. What are you in control of? What is the customer in control of? But delivering to the customer what that VP of sales had so that you can wow them with the offboard instead of, well, give me 3 or 4 hours to go look through all my different documentation tools.
Yeah. And time is so critical at that point because, let's face it, while we, want to have faith and trust in employees, whether they're existing or they're, being offboarded, that organization is at risk if there is information out there that's not known. And, besides that, let's cover on, a couple of these security implications because I think that one is such a critical component. Whether it's, regulation, compliance, cyber insurance, there's just so many facets to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, SaaS and shadow IT really impact a handful of key controls. The ones that we focus on and the ones that we've at least solved with our SaaS management solution really is around like CIS 2.1 and 2.3, an inventory of software and the ability to address unauthorized software. CIS control 2.1 basically says you need to know what's all installed, where the URL is that people are logging in, things like that. CIS 3.1.4 is about, logging account access to the sensitive data, detecting who's accessing that data. We take it kind of a step further. We do also tap into like account inventory. So CIS 5.1 and 5.5, which is how many people are using accounts and are they using shared or are they using service accounts? But other real traditional security things like, if you have a whole list of all the apps, how many of them are using single sign-on? How many don't have multi-factor? Having a list of apps in your view, but then saying these 10 have SSO enabled, good to go. These are the next 10 big apps you need to pull into your SSO threshold, good to go. And then here's the other 30 or 40 that don't have SSO as an option. Evaluate what that means in your life cycle. From a security conversation, it's about knowing everything, but then it's about starting to build that next job to be done with them, like SSO checklist and MFA enablement. And it just short circuits a lot of those questions and a lot of that discovery you have to do on your own. Whereas a SaaS management platform can help accelerate that maturity of security.
That's incredible. And I mean, let's face it, we are in IT and we should be leveraging tools to make our lives more, to make lives easier for us to be able to identify that. So with that being said, just in closing, for any of our audience that would like to learn more about Auvik SaaS management, where can they go to learn more?
Yes, so more than welcome to reach out to our SaaS team here at Auvik. So that's SaaS at auvik.com. If you're an existing customer, give it a shot. If you're a new customer, you get 14 days free trial. I always say just use it to understand what your business is using. Check your own MSP, understand what's going on there.
Yeah,
Otherwise, of course, check us out online, right? Go to auvik.com. There's a SaaS management section where you can learn more, get more features and more information. Both those avenues will lead you to somewhere in our team that can help you answer any of the questions you might have.
perfect. John, thank you so much for your time. Very enlightening, critical aspect that we as MSPs need to continue to adjust and pivot. What worked yesterday isn't necessarily what works today, so we have to make those changes to ensure that we're providing the best possible service and protection for our clients. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time. Cheers.
Everybody out there, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you, everyone.